Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigor Mortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have Baby Blue Jay by Cainmak. So, this story comes to us as a request by Cainmak. They wanted us to take a look at their newest story.
What were the other ones they did?
They also are behind the story A Game of Tag, which had like the girl like in the hoodie, Rose, popping up in camera feeds and stuff like that. And then
Yes.
Yeah. They also gave me a warning. It's like, do not eat when you go to read this story.
Mm-hmm.
And that was warranted, I feel. But let's start off with the initial recommendations and such before we dive into the story. So for Baby Blue Jay, I will recommend the story.
I will partially recommend the story.
Partially?
Yep.
Okay. It sounded like you said, I will personally recommend the story. Okay.
And I will partially as well.
Okay. So let's dive into this one. You can check it out on Reddit creepypasta. I don't think you can check it out on creepypasta wiki as of yet. Let me look that up. Nope. Yeah, so you can check this out on Reddit r/creepypasta under Baby Blue Jay, but I will dive into my rundown. So Mandu, a house cat, though it's never directly said as such, wakes up at sunset to a mob of blue jays outside the window of their house, as well as a massive one-winged monstrosity of a bird, created from an amalgam of blue jays seemingly stitched together. He freaks out and attempts to flee through the house while recalling something he did earlier that may have stirred this strange event on. That morning, he remembers, Mandu snatched up and killed a baby blue jay from a nest, and due to how difficult it was to prepare, only ate part of it and left the rest to rot. That must to Mandu, that must have been why the large apparition and the mob of birds were after him. So he went to finish the baby bird as a way of appeasing the others, only to find the corpse missing where he left it. Sniffing it out and feebly avoiding danger, Mandu finds that it was put in the trash can by the side of the house. Strangely, as Mandu harrowingly pushes the trash can over to get at the contents within, the birds all encircle him and stare, but no longer attack. They seem eager for Mandu to finish his meal. The bird corpse is indeed among the trash, but decaying with maggots. Despite this, Mandu disgustingly goes through with devouring the corpse, though his body rebels against him every step of the way. After it is done, wounded from earlier bird attacks and feeling sick from the meal, Mandu realizes that the birds around him and the apparition have gone, and proceeds to sleep off his disgusting meal. Finn. So, I suppose now we shall move on to Everyone Tolerates the Grime Inquisitions! At this point, I got two. So, I'm going to start with this one here. The fuzzy downs were even more revolting, like million tiny hairs inside his mouth. So I think it should be like a million tiny hairs inside of his mouth.
Or millions.
Yeah, like millions of tiny hairs inside of his mouth. So it needs like an A in front of the million and then like an of inside of his mouth. Like that kind of thing. Or millions of tiny hairs inside of his mouth. So, and then my next one, the light trace odor. Oh, yeah, the light trace odor the light trace odor lead him to the side of the house. And to this, it needs to be the light trace odor led him to the side of the house. Just needs to get rid of that A in lead to make it led. Despite the fact that LEAD also means lead, or also can be pronounced lead when it's referring to a metal.
Don't get me started.
I know. It's not the story's fault, it's the language. But I digress. I am done my grammar inquisition. Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. I have one, and then I also have a conjunction junction.
All right.
So the one that I have is all he saw was blinking shadows casted on the ground. Cast is all you need. You don't need casted.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true.
And then next stop, conjunction. Toot toot.
Yep.
Okay.
It felt like it would never end. It sounded like a bird song, only slower, deeper, and more guttural. It didn't take him long to realize there was something wrong with it, apart from being a 16-foot-tall blue monstrosity. It wasn't just one giant blue jay. It was a mass of blue jays stitched together, like dozens of flies stuck to a glue trap that was hanging on the front porch. It took Mandu a while before he let out all of the tension. But why him? It was a misty summer morning, minutes after sunrise. It was a difficult climb for him, as the nest was about 15 feet off the ground, but he made it. It let out a loud squeak just as Mandu grabbed it and used his legs to break its spine. It weighed him down, like gravity drawing down a hatchling that had fallen out of its nest. It raised its single wing, large and wraith-like, making it look even bigger than it already was. It was comforting. It was in even worse shape than before. It was too big to swallow. It was then that the clicking became intense. It hurt. Finn.
So when you get to the part, like it's like, but why? Like, why was it happening to him? Or like, why were they after him? And then like it cuts immediately to him like going up the tree and like snatching up the bird. And it's like, but why is this happening to me? And it's like, and then just like the next scene, it's just like there's no transition. It's just the next scene is just like a grayed out version of like that morning before. And it's just like previously, just like, why is this happening to me? It shows, and then suddenly cuts to a couple like cuts to a flashback, him grabbing the bird and killing it.
Pretty much. Also, the way that went, he like climbed up the tree, grabbed it. He climbed up the tree to get the bird's nest, grabbed it, and broke its spine, as if this bird nest itself was alive and had a spine.
Yes. Yep.
That's the real horror.
Yeah, the true horror for a druid, maybe. See, I thought you were gonna go. It's like it sounded like he grabbed the tree and broke its spine.
That'd be impressive.
Yes.
And for those unaware, like he does these strings of sentences to highlight all the sentences in the story that start with words that they shouldn't, like its, ands, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
All right, and on to Gamer.
Yeah, I got one. He gasped the moment a gargantuan blue jay locked eyes with him. And then a few sentences go by, and he runs upstairs. And then it says, it wasn't just one giant blue jay. It was a mass of blue jays stitched together like dozens of flies stuck to a glue trap that was hanging on the front porch. So, once again, we get a story where an important descriptor being told to us is told to us late. Because at first, I thought it was a Clifford-sized blue jay. And then I thought it was leading up to say that... why did I say that? But then I thought it was leading up to say... Oh, yeah, okay. So, at first I thought it was a giant Clifford-sized blue jay. And then I thought it was leading up to say that there were multiple blue jays. Because it was saying that... Before he ran upstairs, he said there was something, I forget what it was, I didn't copy and paste it, made it seem like there was multiple of something. So I thought there was going to be multiple giant blue jays. But then it was just one made of tons of blue jays.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the image I had in my head was constantly shifting.
And we all know how much you hate that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you do you. I did not share that thing. I got it. But
fair. But here's the thing.
I know.
It started with saying a gargantuan blue jay locked eyes with him.
But wait,
so that immediately made me think it was just a giant normal blue jay with the giant eye. And then it goes upstairs and says it's actually made of a whole bunch of blue jays stuck together.
That are forming a giant blue jay.
So,
yeah, I know.
So when it said, that made me think when it locked eyes to him, it locked many eyes to him, as in all the eyes along the body of the blue jay all looked at him. So it wasn't a giant eye looking in the window. It was like 40 little normal bird eyes looking at him.
Sure.
But a few sentences after that even said the head made from a ball of wriggling live birds held a black bill and a pair of giant beady eyes with an eerie glow around them. So then at that point, I'm like, okay, so there actually is a giant eye.
It's just
like
made
the
of
way I
many
thought
birds.
It was originally.
Yeah.
Basically, there was 3 versions of this monster.
Yeah.
Because I saw it as a giant bird, a whole bunch of little birds with like Shogothian amount of eyes, and then the combination of the 2 at the end.
Yeah, that's on. Yeah, and that's the third one is the correct way of that, or at least as far as I'm aware, like that's how you're supposed to take it. Is that they all form they all mass together to form the shape of a giant bird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, like, how does that work? Like, I know by the end, it's all like a vision or whatever. It's spirits attacking him or whatever. But not knowing that at the time, I'm like, how? Because if it's made of a bunch of tiny birds, how does it have a massive beak that's just a singular unit and eyes that are just singular units?
I mean,
aren't stitched together or something.
Like you just said, it does get revealed at the end as to like what the nature of it is. So you just kind of have to follow along and wait for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of questions came up during that entire like reveal of the monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also like how like there's this giant bird, and then there's suddenly a mob of other birds, like smaller birds that they specifically say like that are separate from the the giant bird.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of birds in the story.
Yes, but that's all I got for grammar stuff.
Okay,
because personally, I would lead with the final description because that's what it actually is.
Fair. All right, and on to actual thoughts. So before we get too far ahead into like actual thoughts and like our actual like notes and stuff on the story itself, I gotta commend reality a little bit for like for having the story be requested to us in the same rough like time zone, like time like period as a video game is coming out called Stray.
Yeah, that was my first note too. I don't know how this keeps happening.
Right? Like it started with you.
Like someone says something, and then I happen to be watching a South Park episode about the exact same thing or something like that. You know?
Wait, hang on, gamer. Are you the main player of reality? Like
Not
everything,
that you know of.
like everything, like you know how like there's that theory that like the universe is a hologram or we're all in a simulation kind of thing. Are you the main character?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the world revolves around me. Obviously,
Clearly.
yeah. Literally, the day that I sat down to read this, I just finished watching a stream of some gameplay of the Stray game,
Yeah.
and then I put that aside, and then
Read
loaded
the
this
sto-
up.
read the
Like,
story. Is
what's
like,
the story today? Oh, okay.
oh,
Weird.
yeah. And I do have a kind of a gameable like seed idea kind of thing at the end of my actual thoughts for this, revolving around tabletops and playing a cat. But I'll dive into that a little bit further into my notes. But yeah, it's just like, wow, like that's like that game's taking the world by storm because it has a meow button.
Yeah, that's weird.
But like, yeah, I can't believe like what are the odds that this keeps happening?
It's fate.
Yes, or pre-programmed instance.
Maybe.
But I digress. I'll move on to my first actual thought here, aside from that comment. Warning: lots of animals having a bad time. Also, a really unpleasant mukbang. So, then we cut to like the actual like gross part of the story, which is like the I think it's like 2 or 3 paragraphs of Mandu eating, like going into detail of Mandu crunching up and eating the flesh of this corpse bird.
Mm-hmm.
And all I gotta say is, well, that was gross, though not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Like based on the warning, though, I'm glad that there was a warning.
Yeah.
Like that would have been like I mean, but also at the same time, actually, the warning kind of overhyped the story. I was expecting it to be far worse for Mandu.
Because there's a warning.
Because there's a warning saying like lots of animals are going to have a bad time. I was thinking this is going to go Watership Down levels of terrible, or like Plague Dogs levels of depressing.
Yeah,
But
both of the multiple animals having a bad time and the grossness
yeah,
weren't as bad as I thought. Because
Yeah.
it was really just Mandu getting pecked a couple of times, because all the other birds were just in his head.
yeah, and then the eating of the bird. I mean, it's gross, but I mean, I was able to. Maybe it's just because I was able to like not separate myself from like the grossness, but like, no, this is a cat eating a bird. It's like watching National Geographic.
Exactly. That's exactly what I felt too.
Okay.
If it was a human doing this,
Yeah,
with the exact same quotation of all the eating stuff, it would be so much grosser.
yeah. But yeah, like still, regardless, like I don't feel the warning is unnecessary. Also, thank you, Cainmak, for getting me to Google mukbang. And if I have to find out what it is, the whole world that listens to our podcast has to. So mukbang is a Korean term, also known as an eating show, and it's basically online videos and streams of people usually gorging on food, but like generally just eating food while interacting with viewers on a stream.
So it's epic meal time, but just on a stream.
It's epic mealtime
Without
meets like
cooking.
I the way I kind of interpret it, and I could be widely off, but the way I'm kind of interpreting it, it's like the end of epic mealtime, like when they're actually like eating the food and stuff of that, meets OnlyFans.
Okay,
Like
gotcha.
that kind of like and like not to kink shame or anything like that, but it's like I think it's like it's kind of fetishy in terms of like
Yeah.
how it like why it's so popular and stuff is because there's got to be some kind of a fetish to it. I don't know.
There's a fetish for everything. Let's be real.
That's true. But yes, thank you, Cainmak, for making me look up what the term mukbang actually was. Because I think I had heard the term before, but I'd never actually looked it up. But
So the vibe of it is kind of like that one South Park episode when Randy Marsh becomes a celebrity chef because he's like watching like food channel stuff, and like the lady that's cooking like a steak and putting like seasoning on it or something, he's like, oh fuck yeah, as he's just like watching it, he's treating it
it's
like
Like
it's
a porn?
like he's watching porn, but he's not. He's just
If-
watching the Food Channel.
If she was like eating the steak in front of him and he was doing that, yeah, that would be more what a mukbang
Okay.
is. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and honestly, it does fit this story because like by description, like it's like somebody eating food while interacting with an audience, and this cat is eating this dead bird
And we're
while
forced to
being
witness it.
observed by hundreds of other birds.
Oh, true. Yeah, it does have an audience, right?
Yeah, like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so like he is being observed. Like he is being, he's interacting with and being observed by an audience there.
Mhm.
So yeah, it does match the description. It's just like, goddamn, you learn something new every day on the internet, and it's
Mhm.
for good or bad. But I digress. I'll move on to the next thing. Mandu raised from the bed, yawned, did some stretching, then proceeded to the window. So I don't know about you guys, and I don't know why this is the sentence that got me, but this was the sentence I realized Mandu was a pet.
You freaking kidding me?
I don't know why. Like I was like reading it, and it was just like I wasn't sure if it was a dog or a cat at first. And then we find out through context clues it's a cat. But I just had this feeling at this sentence is like, this is not a human. And I had not read anything full disclosure, I didn't read anything about this story past until the beginning. So and then I to kind of like and the fact that to kind of continue on with this, I like that it is never addressed that Mandu is a cat, but we get like context clues in the story.
Clearly is.
Like through like things that like the reader can easily deduce. But like I like how it's never says like Mandu was a cat, like, or it doesn't just blatantly say it. Like I liked the subtleness of it, where it was like, and like maybe subtleness is a bad word, but like I liked how like the indirectness, like it's just like because like why would Mandu refer to himself as a cat? He is Mandu. Like that's a very cat thing to do.
This isn't first person though. It's someone talking about Mandu did this, Mandu do that.
Yeah, but I like how I still like how the narrator doesn't address Mandu as a cat. Like it just kind of describes his catness. Also, yeah. So, are you freaking kidding me? I heard that. I did catch that earlier. So, what was that in response to?
What?
You're like,
I
are
was
you
in
freaking kidding
response
me?
to figuring it out so early.
So early, or
Yeah.
like
you got it after the first tiny paragraph.
I know. I don't know
Third
why.
sentence in.
Like literally, this is my first. Like this was actually like legitimately my first note. Like the trigger warning thing was actually something I put up after my notes and stuff like that. But this was the first note I ever took, and like right as soon as I read that sentence, like I think Mandu's a cat or a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't know why that clicked into my head, but like I caught it right there. I think it's because like maybe it's like because my dogs always do this. Like when they're sleeping on my bed, when they get up, they yawn and then they stretch. Like they like their fronts. They stretch their front first and then their back area, and then they get off the bed and stuff. So,
but humans also wake up and sometimes stretch and get out of bed.
I know, man. But like, for some reason, it just clicked to me that this wasn't person.
I'm not calling you out on it and saying you're lying.
Yeah,
I'm just surprised.
Yeah. And I mean, it was further like cemented when like he scurried under the bed and stuff, because again, like my dogs do the same thing when like they're scared.
Kids scurry under the bed when they're scared.
Yeah, I know, but like my dogs, like again, I think it's because like it's sort of like a lived-in context thing, because like I live with two dogs that are, and one of them is rather cattish in her nature.
I suppose.
Yeah. But
it clicked in for me when it was among the squeaks and chirps. He snatched one of the birds, started to climb down, holding the terrified fledgling in his mouth.
Wait, so you caught it like even after you caught it after he was climbing up the 15-foot tree?
Yeah, because you can get a freaking ladder.
Okay, yeah, no,
humans
fair.
can climb trees, but as soon as he's climbing down, holding it in his mouth, I'm like, why don't you use your hand? Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mikey, I got to ask you now. When did you realize that Mandu was not a person? Mandu was not a man.
Am I the dumbest one here?
Well, mine was when he dashed under the bed,
Damn it! God damn it!
and then at one point he pushes himself against the wall while he's still under the bed.
Yep, that is a very cat or dog thing to do when they're afraid.
Or human being thing to do
No.
when you're terrified.
My one dog, when like fireworks or thunder goes up, we check under the beds, and she's usually just like literally like she is one with the wall.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying that is not a dog-specific thing. A little child also hiding under the bed would get as far away as possible. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right as well. Like you're not wrong in that regard, but yeah. So we all there's a progression of all of it. Like if this was like a race, it's like Cultist would win, Cultist would get the gold, then Mikey, and then Gamer gets the bronze. But at least it's gold, or at least it's a yellow color or yellowish brown.
Somewhat yellow, yeah. I'll take it over silver.
Mm-hmm. Also, regarding the story, like aside from the context, like again, like the indirectness of like Mandu is a cat. I also like the story as it goes on, because I couldn't help but get Homeward Bound, Milo and Otis, but horror vibes. Just the way the narrator was talking about like Mandu's like thoughts and actions and stuff like that throughout the story. It felt maybe not so much Homeward Bound, because in Homeward Bound like the dogs and cat are talking, but in Milo and Otis it's a narrator narrating for the dog and the cat.
Mm-hmm.
So I got kind of like Milo and Otis, but horror vibes from it. So
a little bit.
And then we have this quote here, which is separate from my I'm done that comment there. So on to the next thing here. A blue jay flew in front of his face, followed by another that jabbed him in the cheek with an angry jeer. Another attacked him just below the eyeball, and soon Mandu's vision was filled with birds. So, as I'm reading the story, this came up to my mind. Alternative title for this story: Angry Birds. Eh?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I hate it.
Oh God, I hate you. Also, I'm just gonna be kind of giving the story some praise. I like the idea of a revenge plot on a pet scale. Like these bird parents rallied all of the blue jays in the area to go after this cat that took and killed their baby. It's like a reverse John Wick. Or maybe just part John Wick, since like they do put a hit on him, and every assassin in the city goes after Wick.
Yep.
So it's just like either it's a reverse John Wick, or the cat is just John Wick.
The cat is John Whiskers, actually.
Oh yes. Yes, absolutely.
That is my next D&D character. Whenever I make a cat.
We'll hang on. We'll get to the tabletop stuff in a second.
Okay,
we're getting there. My next quote and comment I want to bring up here is this one. The beast let out an array of disturbing sounds, a song of anger and revenge, reverberating against the walls of the house, the surrounding forest, and everything else. The mere sight made Mandu's hair stand up. Even the moonlight, leaking through the gaping holes between birds, couldn't compete against the dark glow of the blue jay's eyes. It raised its single wing, large and wraith-like, making it look even bigger than it already was. Damn. I know I said that like I was getting like Homeward Bound and like Milo and Otis vibes earlier, like with the imagery and stuff, but this imagery specifically is straight up Don Bluth, like something out of All Dogs Go to Heaven, or like one of his earlier like cartoons where like he was dealing with like animals and stuff like that, like animal characters, and like having to fight like off like some kind of like apparition, or like they get some kind of like demonic vision or something.
Yeah, it is very easy to visualize because of movies like that.
Yeah, and again, I kind of love it. Like I kind of love the descriptions of this story. It's very I know you had a little bit of a problem with like the like trying like getting to the actual like description of the big bird, but like I feel like the story does describe the apparitions really well.
Yeah.
Also,
just want to point out That quote that you just did there, it
Yeah.
said hair and not fur.
Yeah, but hair and fur kind of go like hand in hand.
I wouldn't say so.
Fine. Agree to disagree.
Yeah, do
Okay.
that.
You're entitled to be wrong. No.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Moving on to the next thing here. Feeling his insides constrict in protest, Mandu laid his head on an empty pack of cigarettes, tired and satisfied. So, remember what I said earlier? Is like the trigger. Like I was expecting this to be a lot worse and stuff like that. And then, so this is the final sentence of the story, and I was like, that was an interesting little journey. Like after I'd finished reading the story, that was my first thought, sort of thing. Like first thought, best thought kind of thing was like, that was an interesting little journey we just went through. I'll admit, it was expected. I was expecting this to be a lot more darker, like I said earlier. But it almost has like an animistic happy ending. Like the cat did a bad. Animistic, like basically, it's like it's an ideology that like all things, like animals, people, places, that kind of stuff, they all have a spirit, they have a soul.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like kind of has like an animistic happy ending in that regard. Like the cat did a bad, not so much the killing of the blue jay baby, but leaving the body mutilated and like unfinished, basically, like leaving his work unfinished, and so the bird's spirit, or like its relatives and stuff like that, kind of rebelled against him. And for his hubris, Mandu was forced to finish the job and give closure to the other birds, or to the soul of the bird.
Yeah,
That he
because
had killed.
killing the bird is just nature.
Yeah.
But leaving the bird 3/4 dead and not eating it, that's just being a dick.
Yeah, leaving it to rot and like not become part of, like, not be part of the full circle of life kind of thing. Like, so yeah, it was interesting to see this kind of story, of like horror story plot, which is like a character kills someone and dumps the body somewhere, only to be tormented by the ghost of that person until they do the right thing and resolve the issue, either like burying the body properly or turning themselves in, like that kind of stuff. And then have that trope from the perspective of a house cat. Like, I think given,
for sure.
yeah. I think given the nature and attitude of cats toward, and specifically towards their prey, this was a pretty valid combination. Like, I don't know if you could do this like fully with a dog, but like you could easily do this with a cat, because like cats have a lot more of that like kind of superiority complex and predatory complex compared to a dog.
Yeah, they're straight up predators.
Yeah.
They have
and
like
then
a plasma blaster on their shoulder, and they make clicking noises.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And then they string up their they string up these skinned corpses of their prey on trees for the others to find, and then I'm just basically describing mouse guard but predator. And that's actually a good segue into my tabletop idea stuff for the story. So yeah, first off, mouse guard but predator. So the mouse guard is I think it was a web comic or a comic series that was given its own like RPG, like tabletop RPG, and you play as mice. And like all the larger like predatory animals are like considered, like the mice perceive them as like dragons and stuff like that, and like things to be vanquished or to be defended against.
Oh, and they all have like weapons and shit.
Yeah, like they have, they've got like little cloaks on and like some armor, and then they've got like a sword and shield kind of thing. Like it's very like medieval in terms of their aspect. But like again, like it falls into that whole like Don Bluth, like The Secret of Nim. I'm blanking on other titles.
It's okay.
But like that kind of thing, where like animal characters going on an adventure on that scale, but it's like but the story is being treated as an epic.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of thing would definitely work for this, I feel. But also, I have a game in my collection called Call of Cthulhu, where you play as household cats investigating the mythos and supernatural things, because the two legs are too dumb to figure it out.
Nice.
The 2 legs are what they call humans.
I figured as much.
And yeah, you play as like you can basically play as a regular pet house cat or a stray. And yeah, you go and solve like supernatural problems and mythos horror problems in and around your little like your territory, your neighborhood. Like it's like the secret world of cats and kind of thing. And there honestly, like when I was like looking at like after that was the first thing that came to mind, Call of Cthulhu. But like thinking on it, like again, we had that video game Stray that just came out. And that reminded me, like, there's a couple of like cyberpunk things that actually, like cyberpunk RPGs that have come out recently that have you playing as a cat, like just a household cat that's maybe been augmented slightly, but it's still just a fucking cat.
Yeah.
Like, the first one that comes to mind, there's an expansion for a Powered by the Apocalypse RPG called The Sprawl. And the expansion lets you play as a cyber cat. So it's like a cyberized, like, smart cat.
Nice.
That can go do heists and stuff. For fixers, like a runner job and stuff. And then recently, a game developer I follow, Razor, they've come out with an RPG called Felis Chimeras, and it's basically like a futuristic like transgenic cat. So like cats that are like have been like uplifted to be smarter than your average cat. And like
they're
living
furries, they're straight up still cats.
Yeah, they're still just cats. Hang on, let me pull it up. Felis Chimeras. It's on itch.io. It's a biopunk slice of life RPG where you play as a transgenic cat living in the cramped streets of a kind of a cyberpunk space station city.
Nice.
And I could see again, like I could see something of this kind of nature. Like maybe you might have to tweak a little bit but I could see that kind of RPG being used to play as a cat. And I like how like there's a couple of RPGs. I'm sure there's other ones out there, but I love how there's a bunch of RPGs that are like this, where they're just like, yeah, you're playing as a cat, bro.
I mean, you could be a Dreamlands cat in what?
In the Pathfinder, in Sandy Peterson's Cthulhu Mythos by Pathfinder, they give you the rules and stats to play as a Dreamlands cat, which is just a cat, but is a cat that is smarter or that has like human levels intelligence or more, and
is a wizard.
Yeah, and they're basically just a cat that is a wizard. But it's still just a cat. Like it's still the same size, the same like. They don't have opposable thumbs. But they use like the Dreamlands magics and stuff like that to like do stuff that a cat wouldn't normally be able to do. They can also be their own familiar.
Seems like cheating, like metagaming.
Yeah. But yeah, so like the story, like while reading the story, and like I was like, it's me, the cultist. I love to like kind of pull ideas from stories that we read for potential ideas for like tabletop RPG stuff. And like you really don't have to go that far or work that hard for like doing a cat based RPG where you're a cat that like maybe one of the local cats has gone missing because or like has been acting weird because they're being stalked by the dead birds that he's been like leaving unfinished. And so you as the other cats in the neighborhood are trying to help him out and like figure out what is happening. It's like sort of again, it's like a poltergeist situation or like a revenant situation where like you're having to help your cat buddy figure out how to stop these ghost creatures or these horrible like things from like stalking him and hurting him. And then you find out again that like it's all his fault because he hasn't been eating the cats, or hasn't been eating the all the bodies. So it's like it's kind of the poltergeist situation where like they moved the tombstones, but they didn't move the bodies from the cemetery when they built the suburb over it, and that's why all the spirits were angry.
Maybe.
Spoilers for a 1980s movie called Poltergeist. But
I could reference another movie that people will totally understand more. It's like Bad Ben.
Yes.
When he disturbs the grave, and that's why everything got shit.
And that's why Bad Ben is after him. Yeah, clearly.
Everyone knows Bad Ben.
Yeah, I mean, it's modern masterpiece, really.
It really is.
Check out Bad Ben on Tubi for. But yeah. And with that is my actual thoughts. So, Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. So my first actual thought here is when I first read the name Mandu. I was like, my name is Mandu. Mandu Luri.
Damn it! Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Except for the rest of the story, it was all in the Star Wars universe, of course.
Wait, so does that mean that the bird is Grogu? Well, it's Grosgu. Sorry. I'll just shut up now.
How dare you?
Yeah. And then, as we sort of mentioned before, is that this story has a way of annoyingly not giving you all the details at once, which means you have to constantly change your headcanon.
Oh, so you were annoyed by that, just like I was.
Yeah. But I was annoyed because I kept having headcanon for the main character, because first he was a man, then he was a dog, and then he was a cat, and then for the hilariousness, because I'd already gone through the motions, I envisioned a cat wearing pants.
Fair. I mean, we never see a person in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So the cat is the Mandu of the house.
Mm-hmm. And I think I went that way because I recently watched a short film called The Legend of Pippi.
The Legend of Pippi?
Yeah, P-I-P-I. But
okay, yeah.
It's about a little cat that goes on a quest.
Nice. I mean, that's kind of it is kind of accurate. Like if Pippi didn't have like armor or clothes on, he's basically just Mandu.
I have to Google it because it's a cat wearing armor.
Yeah.
So small.
So small.
And he has like rubber hose animation style limbs.
Yep. It is awfully cute. Yeah, anybody out there listening to us, Google image The Legend of Pippi. It is adorbs.
I even watched the short film because it's on YouTube.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, moving on. The next actual thought I have here, I have a quote. It didn't take him long to realize there was something wrong with it. Apart from being a 16-foot tall blue monstrosity, it wasn't just one giant blue jay. It was a mass of blue jays stitched together, like dozens of flies stuck to a glue trap that was hanging on the front porch. Which my response is, you want birdscape? Because this is how you get birdscape.
Why are we getting so many animal scapes lately?
Because we don't have enough.
Apparently. Also, I am not impervious to the to a reaction of it looked more like when you're describing it, when I was reading it and when you were describing it there, it's like there was something not quite right about it. Aside from it being a 16-foot monstrosity, it's like, no.
Yeah.
What was your first clue?
That's a little weird, but this is also weird.
Yeah. like I liked it. Like I was like I'm fine with it, but like first thought that pops in my head when I hear that is like a snarky reply. It's like, no, really?
You don't say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my next actual thought here is that I wasn't as phased as I thought I might be by the story, but that's because I heard a real life story just recently about a dog that caught a rabbit, snapped its neck, before the owner could get it away from him. And then the owner basically skinned the rabbit, gutted it, and then fed it to the dog.
Yeah. Not to get a little too personal on this, but this just reminded me of how I lost my first pet rabbit to the neighbor's boxer.
Oh.
Really?
So-
Kind of similar.
With like red gloves, just ran up and punched the shit out of your rabbit.
God damn it! Boxer dog.
Oh, so a dog with red gloves came up and punched the shit out of your rabbit.
Yes. We did not do what the owner did and like feed Snowball to the neighbor's dog, but we did have a funeral for Snowball. And then the neighbor's dog came over with flowers in its mouth and got him to put it down on the tomb. On the
Really?
tombstone. Yeah. This was like I was like 6 or 7 at the time when this happened. So
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, not to steal it's as soon as you brought up like a dog like killing a rabbit, I just suddenly got flashbacks to my childhood.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you weren't going to chime in, I was going to say, like, the rabbit is like both a spirit animal here.
Yeah.
All right. And my next actual thought is that I didn't really get the MO of the Blue Jays. Like, why did they want Mandu to eat the rest of the baby blue jay?
To finish, like, complete the circle of life, like to like.
But
That's the way of things.
animal carcasses decompose all the time without being eaten.
Yes, but
And, the culprits are harassed by spirits until
constantly.
they die.
Yeah, like I think it was more of like kind of a justice, like, or like sort of a justice thing. It's like, oh, well, you had the like you went up to our nest, took one of our babies, and killed it for your food, and you didn't have the fucking gall to finish that meal. Fuck you! Finish the goddamn meal. Like, it's that kind of like, just it's sort of like they need, like, it was sort of like a giving closure in a way to the birds. It is sort of anthropomorphizing the birds' like mindset and stuff like that. But
It's the way of the forest, you know?
Yeah.
But the birds would just attack the cat anyway because they the cat took one of their own. Like, there's no need for the cat to finish the meal.
Are you saying you wanted a sad ending?
Maybe.
How dare you?
You're not even a person.
I mean, that he isn't.
Demon.
He is a
That's fine.
star demon. So
Yeah. But yeah, it could be more along the lines of because the little baby was taken and partially eaten but not completely consumed, its soul isn't at rest. So the souls of its family members, maybe even its real family, like a live family, hence the pecking that actually hit him, wanted his soul to rest. So this is how you do it.
yeah. Also, it is interesting that, Gamer, you keep bringing up the birds are spirits. Like, aside, like, because for me, aside from the apparition, like, of the giant bird, I assumed all the other birds that were in the area were all real birds. Like, all the ones that weren't part of the mass that formed the giant bird. I just assumed all those ones were like the bird's like family, extended family, or like thing.
No, I thought of it way more realistically, quote unquote. Like,
Okay.
There's 2 or 3 actual birds. Those are I don't have a note on this. That's why I'm chiming in now. There's 2 or 3 actual birds, and those are the ones that are actually hitting him when he gets pecked and such. All the other ones are just spirits of other birds that are harassing Mandu because of what he's done.
Yeah, like the extended ancestral spirits of the bird that Mandu killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's basically on a really bad trip because realistically, if there were that many birds around, there would be like the army showing up or people outside being like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, what we're not seeing, which is a lot, because we're just getting this very like funnel vision, like tunnel vision, like scope of Mandu's like world. What we're not seeing around the neighborhood is like people are just like coming out and just seeing these like this massive flocks around like the Johnson's household. And they're just like going, yeah, it's just like everybody like yeah, like the fire department or like the police department's been called in. But yeah, like that's what we're not seeing in the story, is like because it's all from the perspective of this one cat and his journey for redemption.
Mm-hmm.
But out like just like not even like 50 feet away, there are people gawking at this massive gaggle of birds.
Or not.
Or they're not, yeah. Or it's all just like
cat's
it's just
just
like a
freaking
handful
out.
of birds, and like occasionally you're hearing like a cat like meowing like in distress as he's like tripping balls.
Yeah, pretty much. He's on a bad trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something funky about that baby blue jay.
Yeah. Or what we're missing is like, so between dumping the body on the floor for his masters to or for his humans to clean up and going to bed,
please. His
Yes.
employees.
Yes. And going to bed and to wake up at sunset. He had some catnip and it was laced with something.
Yeah.
Or it was some bad catnip.
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually still in bed this entire time.
Yep.
Saying it's like almost like a form of sleep paralysis then?
I was about to say, it's like, I'm not saying it's sleep paralysis, but it's toad sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
For a cat. It's like when you see a dog, I don't know if cats, I've never really owned a cat long enough to like know if they do this or not.
Mm-hmm.
But like from a dog perspective, I like it's like when a dog is like woofing and like its paws and like limbs are moving around while it's sleeping, like it's like having a dream that's like running or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's what like the employee of the cat is coming into the room because it's hearing like some like cat meowing and looks over and the cat's just still on the bed and just like moving around, but it's
Just laying
still asleep.
sideways with his legs moving like he's running. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like pawing at the air, like just like
Yeah.
sleep pawing. Yep.
Alright. That's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right. Then on to Gamer. Yet again.
Okay. Blue Jay seemed excited, and Mandu realized they were firing him up. And in italics, my favorite sort of thing, do it, do it, do it, do it, on italics. The giant blue jay remains still, never blinking its eyes, burning, its never blinking eyes burning through Mandu's soul. So, I kind of wish it didn't spell it out with, like, do it, because it makes it feel like all the birds are just, like, actual bullies, like, picking on the poor cat. Do it, eat the poop. Do it, you pussy, you know? Like,
I mean, the cat deserves this, but yeah.
I understand, but it made it funny.
Yeah, it does kind of like make it like, I mean, I could see like where the writer's coming from for like, it does kind of give it a little bit of like a like sort of it's like trying to like boost up the intensity, but then on the other side of it, it can be kind of funny. It's like a bunch of like the birds are just a bunch of dude bros like do it.
All of like Letterman jackets on and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly think
I mean, there are a bunch of Blue Jays, so
without that. Yeah. They're all wearing Toronto Blue Jays jerseys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it'd be more intense without the quote unquote dialogue from the birds. Because it would just be a whole bunch of birds sitting there just staring intently at him, not making a noise, just watching his every move.
Yeah.
Like, that's way more intense. Like, he's in like a push circle, like at a fight. Like, you can't leave. You have to do what you have to do there.
Yeah, that's fair. Because it was one of the first bits of like the one of the, again, quote unquote, like bits of dialogue that we get in the story, and it's from the birds. So it does sort of, in a way, break the tone of the story, or not break the tone, but like it kind of like it's an anomaly in the story.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's meaning to say that the birds are literally communicating with him, or it's just the
He's getting that
narrator
note.
trying to give the vibe.
Yeah, like that could be like the birds are like egging on, like, or chirping in like in a pattern. And to the cat, it's like the cat's getting the impression that they're saying, like, they're basically like saying, do it, do it, do it, like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Which is probably the case, because I doubt that the cat knows bird.
I mean, you never know.
Just imagine like a cat sitting in a bush making like chirping noises.
Yeah.
And a bird lands in front. He's just, ow! Just jumps out and gets him.
Yeah.
And then my last note, because I don't really have too much, honestly. Seeing all the stuff that happened, it makes me wonder. We kind of brushed on this. It makes me wonder if animals see weird shit like this, like semi-regularly, because sometimes they bark or hiss at seemingly nothing.
Yep.
So it might be them just seeing all the weird shit that we can't see.
Yeah, like
your dog seeing the Slender Man following me everywhere I go.
Yeah, and that's why she doesn't like you very much.
She's fine with me. She's just not a fan of the Slender Gentleman.
Yeah, she just can't stop seeing the creepy tall guy in front, behind, with no face behind you at all times.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, true story, folks.
Yeah,
who's listening? One of my dogs. Oh God, 10 years ago, my one dog loved Gamer, like whenever he came over and stuff, and then we went and shot a Slenderman movie or Slenderman short film, and ever since then, she's been terrified of him. We don't know why.
For no reason.
Yep. That was the only like thing that we could think of that happened in between point A and point B.
The only thing that quote unquote makes sense.
Yeah. At least in our world.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, again, you see that all the time. Like that's why, like a lot of like, 50% of creepy ghost videos on YouTube and stuff like that, or like haunting videos on YouTube, are just pets reacting to nothing, and their owners and the audience most of the time just getting creeped out. Like, what are they seeing?
Mm-hmm.
What are they reacting to?
Now we have a window to see what they are reacting to.
Yeah. And we could explore that further in a tabletop RPG like Call of Cthulhu, or hell, Felis Chimeras, perhaps.
Yep. Couldn't you technically take like bunnies and burrows and just be cats?
Cats in litter boxes.
Yeah. Cats in boxes.
Cats in boxes. Yeah. Dogs in houses. Birds in cages. Yeah, you can totally do that with any like woodland critter.
Are endless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was an idea. We were like, I remember way back when me and Mikey and some of our other friends were thinking. Yeah. We're thinking of doing a bunnies and burrows kind of thing using actually using the Mouse Guard RPG, I think. But one of them wanted to play like a hedgehog, and the other one wanted to play rabbit. So we were like thinking of like tweaking the stats slightly, just so like you could play as a hedgehog or a rabbit. But yeah, cats in boxes. No, cats in ceilings.
Nice. You are all ceiling cats.
Yeah,
you have to live in the attic because the monsters are everywhere else.
Yeah. And your owners are too busy masturbating?
Of course.
Jesus. But yeah, like you could technically do that. Again, like there are stats for playing animals and like pet like animals and stuff like that for like Pathfinder and D&D and such too. But I mean, there's also RPGs out there that are specifically for cats.
Yes.
So
yes, that is the end of my notes.
Okay. Then on to final thoughts. Yeah, not much has changed for me. So it was a really interesting and unique storytelling hook for a horror story, and I enjoyed it. So I'm going to continue recommending it. Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right. So I liked that it was a cat because we don't normally get stories about animals
Mm-hmm.
from the animal perspective. But as I stated, the rewriting of the scene in my head is definitely a drawback for me
Okay.
anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just because you're like trying to figure out that it is in fact a cat takes a while. Like you get some hint that it's an animal, but eventually you know for sure that it's a cat when it comes to the windowsill scene.
Yeah.
Or the climbing of the tree and then bringing that creature back down with it in its mouth. So, as I stated, I'm only going to partially recommend this.
All right. All right. So on to Gamer. Your thoughts?
For me, when I wrote down my recommendation, I wrote down maybe, but also maybe no, like kind of the lower end of mid, because
Wow. Okay.
I'm not one for gross out horror. It's
Yeah.
not my kind of deal. And also, you're targeting my spirit animal as a cat.
Yeah. I know. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I was. It was a legitimate concern at the beginning, especially when we get a warning like animals are going to have a bad time, and then when I realized that it was Mandu was a cat, I was like, oh, please don't let this end with him dying or something like that, like, or
Yeah.
being like horribly mutilated, like that, like his owners finding him like horribly. Honestly, my biggest fear, and like legitimately, like when I thought how this was going to end, the owners are going to find Mandu mutilated in the backyard.
Yes, for sure. And
And I'm glad it didn't go that route.
yeah. When I read the intro, I was like, warning, all that stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm not going to have a good time because that's not my kind of deal. But here we go. But
Yeah.
again, I thought it was a human for a good third of this story. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But then it's a cat. I'm like, oh no. What are you going to do
Oh,
to that
no.
poor little precious fur ball?
Yeah.
But no, it's fine.
I think both of like I assume we were all like pleasantly surprised by the ending.
Yes, because I thought something
Right,
actually
yeah.
horrible was going to happen to him because I was warned that that was the case. But it was
Yeah.
not. So I guess in a way it kind of gets you tense because like you're expecting all this bad stuff to happen, which makes the ending feel like more of a happy ending and more chill because of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of good in a way. But when I'm thinking about all this though, if you are reading the story because you like gross out horror, then this is a good story for that because it is gross. And but it's not, at least for our stomachs apparently, it's not so gross that I may have thrown up. I don't know if I ate something before. I may have at least been like, bleh, kind of, because even after reading it, like when I'm reading a story, I don't just read the words. I try to visualize shit.
Yeah.
Even that part. So even though I ate like a couple hours before, my stomach was still like slightly queasy, but it wasn't like I'm sick or nothing, but it was off because I'm not one for gross out horror.
Yeah. Like I will say, like, I didn't really have much of a queasiness, but like once we got to like the bird's head in his in the cat's mouth, and I was like, oh, here we go for the description of like I was over describing it ahead of time about like the brains and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And then when it didn't actually like describe in full detail like the brains and stuff like that, just like the eyeballs like kind of popping and then the pus coming out and so that's kind of gross. But like I was more worried about the brain description, and we didn't get it. It was just like crunch and then goo, and that's it. And I was like,
the goo
okay,
is so much worse than brain, but regardless.
Yeah. Well, it was personal preference. Like I don't like when it comes to horror, like visceral horror, like my kind of squeakiness actually tends to be brain stuff, like gray matter.
Fair.
Like, I don't know why, like, but for some reason, like, blood, fine. Intestines, that's cool. Brain popping out of somebody's head,
Yeah.
yeah.
We all got our likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
Our different levels of how much we can tolerate shit.
Yeah, tolerances, that's it.
Mm-hmm. But, so long story short, I did my notes. I said, like, maybe, but low end maybe, but after realizing if you want to read gross out horror, but you don't want it to be excessively gross, then this does exactly what it's trying to do. So I can't fault it too much for that. And because it's not directly harming really any of the animals, like, yes, the one bird was killed and not eaten, but it wasn't done in a malicious way because it's just a cat. That's what they do. You know?
Yeah, again, it's that National Geographic observation. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I was expecting something way worse, like a human doing something bad to animals, or an animal doing something that it wouldn't normally do that's extremely graphic, you know?
Yeah.
So on that side of things, it's pretty tame.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't hate on it too much. So I'll change my maybe no to a maybe, I guess. I'll level it up, at least for me, personally. But if you're into gross out horror, then yeah, I'll recommend it. Because it's gross, but not to the... It's not unnecessarily gross and graphic, you know?
I dare say this was almost like... With the warning, it's almost tastefully visceral horror. Like, it is, because, like, again, I was expecting it to be a lot more graphic than it was.
Yeah.
Like, and it is, it's graphically described, but it's, like, not as bad as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. We were warned twice about it, too, because there was the initial warning when we were handed the creepypasta, and then the start of the creepypasta itself is warned.
Yep.
But yeah.
So,
for me personally,
all around,
partial, but for someone that's into gross out horror, I'll recommend it.
Okay.
The conditional recommendation.
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, that will take us to this week's episode, the end of this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also check us out on Twitter and talk to us there. Mikey is at the East Ends for Evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at The Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah, it's gotta be though.
Yeah. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void. And if it wasn't for if you didn't write these stories and post them online, or even share them with us directly, Cainmak, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about, and we also wouldn't get to read really cool stuff. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.